and welcome to another episode of WornOut Racing, episode 3 in fact. But before we start, and you will notice that I've got my work jumper on, which means something serious is about to happen, we need to address a fundamental problem with this. And I'll explain. Follow me. Come on a journey, my friends, to the back of my wonderful little garage, if I can fit down in. And you will see quite instantly that, oh, he's disappeared. And the reason for that is that this is the lighting that I've had to compete with for, quite frankly, longer than I'd care to admit. So when I moved in, I put this monstrosity of a light in the hope that one day I would pull my finger out and I'd get a proper light in here. But I'm finally fed up of using inspection lights, lamps, torches, rolling around in the dark and generally not being able to see what I've done. It's depressing. It doesn't work. I can't get it done. I mean, did I manage to build my car in the garage this dark? Yes. Could it have been a lot easier if I'd have done it a long time ago? Absolutely. So, without further ado, and through the magic of paying someone else to do it, oh, wow, that is so much better. Yep, I paid someone to come in and put LED lighting in my garage. I genuinely can't tell you why it's taken me so long to do it. I'm genuinely not the kind of person that puts stuff off. I tend to, I'll be honest, just kind of focus my attentions on the wrong thing sometimes. So, I mean, arguably, was it focusing on the car the wrong thing? Yes, no. But either way, come with me, my friends, yet again, on another magical journey. But this time, I hope to think that you will, one, see how much happier I am, and two, actually be able to see how much happier I am. Because quite frankly, this is fantastic. I mean, look at it. I can literally see every single nook and cranny of my stuffed garage, and the main one, and I'm going to put up a before and after picture here, is the back of my car. Now, not a massive thing, I know, seeing the back of your car, but I've been trying to build this exhaust in the pitch black for far too long. So either way, it is done. We won't dwell on it. It really wasn't even that much money. Massive shout out to Acer Facilities. Genuinely, actually, from me putting in the call, getting the quote and getting the work done was about 3 days, which makes it slightly more depressing that was how easy it was. But you know, I haven't got a huge budget. You have to pay for this stuff as you go. But what does it mean? Big things, actually. One, you finally get to see the red thing behind me. It's not going to be ideal for a review as such, but I'll take you through the spec list, what's coming up, what things need to be finished on it, and then eventually, when it's finally roadworthy, I'll take out some proper beauty shots, and you'll be able to see it a lot better, especially once it's got its nice wheels back on it. It means you'll be able to see a lot more videos on actually how-tos, how I'm doing some of the stuff, what things I'm doing to actually build the exhaust, things like that. And, dare I say it, when this moves out, there's space for many more things. Room for activities, I believe they call it. So, yes, it was a very small thing. It's had a massive impact, but, wow, let's cut to it. The thing that you have probably all been waiting for is the review of my Fiat Cinquecento Turbo. So, let's just get straight into it. Oh, and for any of my friends are wondering why he's got his cap on again backwards, is because it's now so bright in here, I'm worried there's going to be a vast amount of glare off this big dome of mine. So it's either this or bold glare. You choose. Okay, right. I appreciate this doesn't really need some kind of like cool intro or snazzy music, because quite frankly, I think we're all beyond that now, aren't we? So let's pop the bonnet. So as I said, this is a 1996 Fiat Cinquecento Sporting. Nothing particularly rare about it. Well, I suppose it's got no rust on it, which is probably a slight rarity in some cases. But yeah, I bought this, wow, 5 years ago, sight unseen from an old boy in Essex. Head gasket gone. Always planned on doing something crazy with it, but not quite as crazy as this. It was going to stay NA. I found a turbo engine, to the most part, on eBay, which I do have a story for, which I'll go into in a minute. And it all kind of went a little bit downhill from there. So I guess we'll start with the engine first. That's the most sensible approach. Let's do that, Benjamin. And here it is, the engine. So this is still an 8 valve. I like the 8 valve engines. I know, you know, T-Jet, 16 valves and stuff, potentially a bit better, but I just love them. This is a Punto 75 engine, so it's got the multi-point injection, 38mm throttle body, and the 866 cam. For those of you who don't know, it's called an 866 cam because that's what's stamped on it. So it's slightly higher lift, slightly higher duration, nothing mental. But I mean, in stock form, straight out of factory, no turbo, 75 horsepower. So that's already 25 more than there would have been in here when it came out with the 1.1. So I actually sold the 1.1 to a bloke that does, what is it? Oh, single seat racing in the 750 motor class. And he was going to use it as like a spare engine. And he actually messaged me a couple of days later saying he'd stripped it down and it was like new on the inside. So it actually upgraded to being his spare race engine. So it had dry sump on it. And I think, as long as it hasn't blown up since, now living its life in a single seater, which is pretty cool. So what does it take to turbo one of these? Right, so if I'm going to speak to you as if you've never dealt with a Fiat Cinquecento, and if you have, I'm sorry, you'll know all this stuff anyway. Turbo in them. Now there's a bit of debate on this. We get a lot of questions about it saying, I want a turbo my Cinquecento, what do I need? Some of the first responses are, don't do it. You need a load of money, it's loads of effort, they'll be unreliable and stuff. To the most part, I'm going to dispel those myths because I think you can do it on a budget and you can do it cheap and you can make them reliable. You can also make them mental. I'm not saying this one's necessarily mental, but first up, you can either go with, you need to lower the compression on them. You really can't run very much boost on a completely stock engine. This one's got 16 valve pistons from a 1242cc, so I believe these are Mark II Punto pistons in this. Standard rods, standard crank, standard bearings, whole shebang. This one's had new bottom end bearings. The compression's all good. It's got 150 across all 4 cylinders. The next thing you need is getting it in there. So I don't know if you can see. So they usually run on the 899cc's. They have a little throttle body bob like this. Or on the normal Sportings, it's just an airbox straight in. So you need to get something like this made up. I actually got this done by Rob Better from Crafty Metal, and it's mint. I just sent him the dimensions. He knocked it up a treat. Turbo wise, again, you can, I guess, to the most part, spend as little or as much as you want on this. I mean, yes, tubular manifold would be sick, but this one just runs a standard manifold, 1242 manifold. Lock the bottom off it. T3 flange, and away you go. So this one's running a KO3 turbo from I think it's from like a Passat TDI or something. So I mean, it's not particularly fancy origins, but I've rebuilt it. So it's got a whole new cartridge in there, slightly bigger compressor housing, purely because I bought the wrong cartridge. So we basically bored out the inside of the compressor housing. Injectors, they're Alpha 156 2-litre twin spark injectors. So they're 180, 190cc. Not massive. It doesn't need it at the moment. It's so easy to replace them. I may well put some coupe turbo ones in here at some point. It's got a dump valve. We all love dump valves. Anyone who says they don't like a dump valve is because they don't have one. That's my opinion, by the way. The main one and the biggest expense when it comes to turbo in your car is engine management. Now, you don't need to go standalone ECU. I'm going to say that now. With a multi-point injection, yes, I'm going to say you probably do. Single point injection turbo, no. There are a few options for you where you can control the extra fuel in from either like proper ghetto, like a fuel pressure switch that just triggers the new injector, or something similar. You know, Van Aken used to do it. It was a company that used to do turbo conversions for these. It was like a small, like modular, like controller. But I've gone for the microsquirt V2, and I don't know if you can see this. I mean, I'm a pretty big bloke, but I mean, so my hands are massive, but look at the size of that. I mean, that is the tiniest little ECU ever. And I have to say, massively impressed with it. It's got a lot of really good features. It's got launch control, which is kind of like a rev limiter. It's got flat throttle shifts. It can only do batch fire, so you can't do sequential firing of the injectors on it, but whatever, man, that's not a big deal. And this is actually probably a good opportunity to give a massive shout out to my man from Italy, Claudio, who lives in Sicily. Been a huge help, part of a little mini WhatsApp group of mine. He's remoted onto my laptop a couple of times over the years to sort of help tweak the map and stuff like that. So top work, Claudio. And also to my mate Al, who doesn't live in Sicily and he lives just down the road, who actually has been dedicating quite a lot of his time to helping me get the wiring sorted, which I will grant, and Al will probably admit this as well, we have gone purely functional. So you will see there's a lot of stuff that really could do with being buttoned up. So how we've set this up is to try and keep it as kind of separate away from the existing loom, body loom and stuff as possible. So it effectively has a power wire running down through the back of there to a junction box, and then that junction box then powers all of the relays, which go off to like the coils and the pump, the wideband and stuff like that. Then there's still some of the existing loom, but I've cut out everything it doesn't need, so it's got the main body fuse and stuff on there, and then it all runs off fairly, like, it looks really janky at the moment, so I had to basically take all of the trimming off. So this was all lovely and wrapped and tidied up, and then I continuously keep finding problems with it. So there's a life lesson for you. If you're building a turbo, do not try and make the wiring really nice and wrapped and tidy before you're sure that it works, because you will inevitably have to cut it apart again and it will look like crap. So the plan for the future will be to build another one. I've actually got a spare loom, 8-foot loom from triggerwheels.com. So I'm going to run the ECU into the car, excuse me, run the ECU into the car and have it all really clear, so I can hopefully fit some kind of charcoal, carbon canister, like air filter setup on it. We are running a stock rad with an uprated fan. I was going to go twin fan on it, but I can't fit it in because of the turbo, because it sits right friggin' there. Actually, this is probably a good time to go into the modification I've done to the thermostat. So the thermostat, which sits just down in there, basically these do run a little bit warm anyway, which is a little bit surprising given they're an Italian car. It's not like it's a cold climate or anything. So the thermostat opens around 90, and then obviously then generally speaking it's got like bust its butt basically trying to cool itself down. So what you can do, and actually I've got the box, is you can take the Fiat thermostat off. It's got like a really stiff retaining spring and a little clip, so you effectively just push the clip down and twist it and take it out. And if you do that, be careful, because it literally flies out of there. And then you just pull the little copper thermostatic like element out of it, and then you replace it with this. So I used the Gates one. I'll put this in the description anyway. So it's the boom. I'll put it a little bit closer, but yeah, I'll put all the part numbers in the comments. And what it basically is, that's a Renault, I think it's a Laguna thermostat, and that is actually a sealed unit, so you can't take the thermostat out the same way. So you have to effectively just get some sharp pliers, just peel it back and get that small center section out. And from memory, I think the small rod that it effectively moves on to open and shut the thermostat, you have to take the one off the Fiat and take the one out of the new Renault one and swap them over so it actually fits. Put it all back together, Bob's your uncle. So stick it in some sort of saucepan, get one of those roasting thermometers just to make sure it all works, and you'll find it should, as long as you've done it right, open at about 78. Now this car is actually really good because I've got the microsquirt. My radiator fans actually are turned on by the actual ECU itself, so it's not done by the temperature sensor anymore. So the combination of having that open at 78 Celsius degrees and then having the fans kick in, I reckon probably around 82, 84, something like that, it should keep it nice and cool, because it's just going to give it a little bit more of a fighting chance. Actually, while I'm here, so I've just realised I forgot to do this, the other option you've got is, you obviously heard me say that I've got 16 valve pistons in mind. If you want to know what they look like, or whether yours are 16 valve pistons, these are those. So I've got a spare set. Not a massive amount of difference with the way they look. So it's effectively this dip in the center is a slightly bigger, and you've got these 4 cutouts. So on a normal stock piston, you won't have these 4 cutouts, so it'll be pretty obvious whether you've got 16 valves or not. These ones are actually, dare I say it, actually nicer than the ones I've got in the car now. So I think I bought these from Tom, from one of the groups, so cheers Tom. But again, relatively inexpensive. I mean, I must have paid, wow, maybe £30 with the rods. I will put that back in there properly in a minute. So yeah, so chuck those in there. Like I said, that like it's easy, and you'll be able to run a decent amount of boost on there. I'll soon tell you how much if I manage to grenade it when I push it up a little bit much. But anyway, let me get back to what I was actually getting into before I sidetrack myself, and yeah, let's get back into it. We can't quite see it, but I've got a Van Aken intercooler, which I'll be honest is a little bit small really. So I've got an idea to replace that with actually one out of a Citroen C4. So if you bear with me, yet again, not particularly flashy origins, but look at this. Here's one I prepared earlier. So if you look at this, that is a decent thick core. These are, for at least my setup, the perfect inlet and outlet sizes for my turbo and for all my pipe work. It's not vastly massive, so it should fit in there quite nicely. And some of the mounting points are actually really good. And the best bit was £20 off eBay. Boom. I mean, it needs a clean badly, so I'm going to spray a load of degreaser in it and give it a clean up. But otherwise, actually, I'm going to leave it on there because I'm never really going to drop that on camera. Otherwise, it's going to be mint, so that should go in at some point. And then, again, you can't quite see it, but there is a oil cooler and remote filter. Now, something for you turbo people to bear in mind if you're thinking of doing this conversion is, as soon as you add that turbo to the bottom of the manifold, both your oil filter and your metal water pipe that runs along the front of the block, completely useless. I mean, when I first set this up, for me to do an oil change, I was going to end up having to take the turbo off every time. And let's face it, no one's got time for that. And also the metal pipe that runs the water from the block out to the radiator and up into the thermostat, it doesn't fit. So you basically got to hack it about and chop it. So again, that's something else it works and it's functional, but I definitely want to make that a bit better on this. Otherwise, gearbox, completely stock. They're really nice and low geared on these. I mean, obviously, if you're on a motorway, it's a little bit screamy, but otherwise, gearing wise, they're mint because they really do get up and go. I mean, the turbo ones struggle a little bit with traction, but not an issue. The other thing with these as well is it's a little bit of a Lego car. I mean, you can take stuff from all kinds of. They used the 8-valve, the fire engine, in cars for years, and even when it sort of changed up a little bit, it's still fundamentally the same engine. So this one's got a 200mm flywheel from a Fiat Stilo, 1.4 16-valve. Which means you can upgrade to the Fiat Stilo clutch as well. So it's a stock clutch, but obviously the Stilo is a much bigger car, higher torque rating, it's much heavier and that sort of stuff, and they come with about 100 horsepower. So I mean, for this weight and stuff, it should be good. I mean, I think I know people that have ran 150 brake on one of them, no problems. It was so cheap. It's like £70. I mean, if I burn one every year or two, then that's still better than me spending £300 on a special clutch now. So, right. And then let's go into a suspension. Right, suspension. So I'll be honest, I've actually gone pretty basic with this at the minute. I mean, within reason, I would always suggest, if you can, any car that you modify, drive it around standard, drive it around bone stock. I mean, give it some real pushing, not def, but go for it. So you know what it really needs. I mean, I've driven loads of these. I genuinely can't remember what levels of suspension I've had on all of them, like mostly. So it was pointless me running straight out and spending £400 on a set of Avo adjustables for it if I didn't really need it for the style of driving I was going to do. I still didn't really know what I was going to do with it, whether it was going to be a track car, weekend toy, daily commuter that was quick or what. So it's actually got KYB SR front shocks, lowering springs. It's got polybushed engine mounts, polybushed gearbox mount, polybushed ARB mounts as well, anti-roll bar, if anyone doesn't know. And the rear is just bone stock sporting shocks with lowering springs. And that's it. That's it. I mean, that's a pretty basic, especially for like the power that I'm hoping this is going to run. That is pretty basic. But what I will say, to touch back on my don't spend money if you don't need it, if you put that setup on your car, and then for 95% of the time the driving you do, it's perfect, win-win. You spend, what was it, 160 quid probably on the springs and the new shocks, and you're done. You didn't spend money on something you didn't need. If you drive it in this setup and you realise it's a bit soft, I do a lot more track days than I think, then absolutely there's enough of a market for the second-hand parts for these cars, especially probably any car really if you're modifying it, to just take those off and sell them. Or if you're me and you've got two of them because you're weird, chuck these on the other one, because the Slug will end up being like my, I don't know, second-hand parts hauler, the hand-me-down car. But at the moment at least, it sits nice, they feel fairly firm, and I think it'll probably be all right. I mean, as I proved hopefully in the Slug, I mean, the suspension on that's far from ideal, and that was a riot. So, don't think just because it's a tick a box, Avo adjustables, that you're winning. Fair enough, man. If you've got the money, chuck it at it. That's fine, I'm not cussing you down, but if you haven't, don't waste it where you don't need it. So, and that, actually, from one of my other videos, you will remember I mentioned this thing, the catch can. So it goes back to my catch can analogy. I mean, I don't need a decent catch can in this. If it blows up and puts oil all over my car, boom, then I would definitely upgrade it. Otherwise, Yeah, oh, brakes. Can't forget the brakes, Ben. We all need brakes to slow down. These, now this is something that you will find a bit of a debate on, but my Polish counterparts have also agreed with me on this. Stock brakes on these, calipers I mean, and this size, fine. Unless you are planning on doing serious amounts of track time, racing it, proper competitive hill climbing, I'm going to throw it out there. Stock brakes, calipers, proper decent pads, and a decent set of discs. Fine. Drums on the rear, and just keep them like in top condition. I just have never ever got into a situation in any of my Fiats, from the turbo ones to the stock ones, where I thought, Jesus, I wish the brakes were better. I mean, they weigh like 750 kilograms with me in it, probably. It just doesn't need it. I mean, if you want to put big brakes on one, knock yourself out, man. I mean, who am I to stop you? But again, if you are building one of these on a relative budget, stick with them as you are. I mean, if you ever find the limit to them, all the best to you, like chuck some better stuff on it. Otherwise, don't need it. Leave it as it is. Now, I might be testing my new lighting out a little bit here, but let's get inside the car. Oh, little shout out, United Centos. So, I'll be honest, I have not spent a huge amount of time and effort in here because I actually quite like the interior of a Cinquecento. Wow, that's close up. So, standard sporting seats. Are they the most supportive seat in the planet? No. Are they pretty comfy for pretty much all occasions? Yes, they are. So, at the moment at least, they are staying in. The plan is with both of the cars, I think, is probably, actually, you can see it sat down there. That old boy. For the time being at least, I will get a seat runner for that, and then anytime I need to do any kind of track driving or sprint days or whatever, I'll chuck that old bucket seat in, rag it around the track, and then put my nice comfy seat in. I will say, like every single Cinquecento that seems to be in existence that I own, the bolster's gone. It proper annoys me because it's the only part of my interior that isn't nice. The back's all still in. I like interiors in my car. I mean, look at it. I mean, there's a lot of bare metal. These weigh literally about 3 grams. The little pockets weigh hardly anything. So to some extent, I'm not in the mood to be stripping it out, really. It's absolutely fine as it is. I quite like it. As anyone will tell you, put a race wheel in your car and feel racy. So I'm 6'4". I don't know if I've mentioned that yet, given that this is the size car that I drive. So I usually have to make some sort of compromise. I either have to be too far away from the steering wheel or too close to the pedal. So this is my, hopefully, approach to getting as far away from the wheel pedals as I can and still be able to reach the wheel. I probably will still put an extension on it. So like a little snap off extension. So it adds another maybe 2 inches or something. But otherwise, pretty decent. I will say to anyone who's never driven one of these, you can't quite see it, but pedal-wise, I mean, I've got size 12 feet. They are a little bit tight, but, you know, let's not freak out too much. AEM wideband, I always regret putting these in proper eye level because, one, it makes you really paranoid every time you see it dip or go further around than it will, which it will sometimes. And I'll be honest, it's a little bit annoying with it just flashing all the freaking time. I'll probably go to an Audi Performance one eventually because it's just a little square gauge with just a red readout on it, but you know, whatever, it's needed. The ECU needs it for its readings and stuff, and it hopefully will stop me blowing anything up. I've gone for an old Tim's boost gauge. I'll be honest, not needed at all because I get a digital reading from directly from the ECU to an app on my phone, but I love it and it looks proper cool. And the other thing that maybe most people probably won't notice is this weeny little light here. So I've got in here, which again needs a little bit of tidying up, I want to make sure it works. This is a knock sense detector from somebody called Boris, I think, in Canada, and this both sends a message to my ECU when it receives that I'm getting knock on the engine, but it also flashes my little light up as well. So if at any point I get engine knock, boom, I'll know about it, unless I'm paying absolutely no attention whatsoever. What else to mention? Oh, I've got no sunroof, which is nice. Especially if you don't want to have it leak and or, you know, that race car feel. The other thing is my gear knob. Now, this might look like I'm running something relatively flashy. I did actually run my cables up through the floor, through into here, and actually moved a whole assembly up inside the car so that it was right up here. I'll be honest, it is my fault. I tried not to go the tried and tested route. Everyone does it through the bulkhead. I didn't want to put the cables through the bulkhead. I wanted it to come up and just be a little bit smoother route up through the floor so I didn't have to mess around with them too much. they ended up being about this much too short. It's my bad. I'll admit when I'm wrong. So in the end, my cool shifter ended up going back into the floor with my extension, and this is just for the reverse lockout. It's a BMX handle going on there. It's not a particularly expensive one, so it feels a little cheap, but literally it won't go into reverse, and then you pull the little handle, boom, straight in. It looks flashy. Do you know, I've never been able to find this gear knob since. Tried to buy another one, it was on eBay, and it's completely disappeared, so happy days. Otherwise, not much else to report on it. It is clean, tidy, and all there. So come on, Ben. Be honest with us. Why is this car not working at this moment in time? I could give you a load of excuses, but the truth is, it's ended up costing me quite a lot more money than I was expecting. And due to my whole don't spend money unless you need it, I've done a lot of swaps. I bought like semi-slick tyres from a motorsport place. I sold a load of them. That paid for some tyres for this. I've bought parts and sold parts. I've bought chinks and took engines out and sold those, and that paid for like the clutch and the gearbox or whatever. So it's taken a lot longer. You know, like as well, man, life gets in the way. I've got jobs. I can't, you know, I mean, I can't do this all day, every day. And if I'm honest, it's just a learning curve. If you want to save money, the biggest thing you can do is learn to do it yourself. I'm not a massive fan of welding. I don't mind it, but I've learned to do it in certain circumstances so I can build the exhaust. Mapping, it's massively confusing, but again, save money. Me and Al have done it and learned it, and Claudio's helped along the way as well. That's all you can do. So genuinely, all that's left on this car now, finish the exhaust, which is going to be centre exit. I've got a classic mini one to come that sweep up out the back of the bumper, and mapping. We've had it running, it idles, did when it was a lot colder, so the warm-up enrichment is completely off again now. And then that's it. That is genuinely it. So over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to take you through the finalising it. We'll make a board. We'll get a little board up here. Look, oh, hang on, gone the completely wrong way. We'll go all roadkill style, cardboard list. We'll work through it, check everything off, give it a little bit of a nuts and bolts check, and then, wow, book it in. I think I'm going to M-Tech Automotive in Westbury, just because they do microsquirt, and it's not a million miles from me. And then we'll see how we do, and then we'll get it booked in for its first event. But stick with me. We'll take it on an adventure. You can come with me for the ride and see if all my hard work's paid off, or whether it grenades itself the first time that I do anything vaguely intense in it. But I hope it's been worth the wait. Like I said, it's not the easiest car to capture when it's in this tiny little garage. I'm sure to have missed some stuff off, but I mean, hey, if you want me to cover anything specific even, stick it in the comments. Any questions, I can always do a little follow-up video for maybe a minute or two to answer any other questions. Otherwise, there's some big things coming. Secret plans on the Slug are progressing. I've got a few things coming for that as well. And dare I say it, we've actually got a non-Fiat related video coming up that I've had an idea for, in a segment I'm calling the WornOut recommendations. So you'll get a little bit more on that soon. That'll probably be the next video I do, actually, just as long as the weather clears up a little bit and stops hammering it down. Otherwise, you know what to do. If you like the videos, let me know. If there's anything you'd like to see, let me know that as well. Tell your friends, tell your family, shout from the rooftops. WornOut Racing's here, and I'm going to try and do as much of it as I possibly can. So either way, let's keep this going, and then we'll go from there. I genuinely have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm loving every minute of it. So I'll catch you soon. I'll see you in the next video. Goodness me, I forgot to say, don't forget to take a look at my Facebook page as well, which I've just launched. Still a bit under construction, but hopefully you'll get a few more bits of content there, heads up when videos are coming out, extra photos, project updates, all kinds of things. So yeah, give it a look, WornOut Racing, go see what you think. Anyway, I'll stop waffling, see you later.